All right, thanks for joining me today on my channel. And this is Discovering My Dividends. And I'm on a little bit of a adventure here. I want to make $1 million in less than 7 years, but only adding $50 a month into the account. So I started at the beginning of this year, and I've been building on it. I'd like to also monetize my channel, so if you can subscribe and like, that would help out my channel immensely. And yeah, let's get going. So today I wanted to kind of just touch base a little bit on pardon me, on my strategy that I'm using. And so I kind of tier my sales. So what I'll do is I'll look for stocks. I have a list of stocks I've already created, so I feel like they have potential for growth. They have potential for a value kind of differential, so they're below value right now when I buy them, where I kind of have an idea where I feel they're kind of valued at. And if they dip below that, then I'm looking at buying in. And I kind of have a rough kind of feel for where each one of those stocks is. Now, I went out and looked up only dividend stocks. I tried to get stocks that pay out consistently, pay out monthly or quarterly. So I had a certain level of criteria on that. So when I go ahead and buy, like I said, I either feel like they are going to be having some growth or they're below value. And they had a recent dip that I figure is going to have a rebound. So it's kind of a combination of those, or at least one of those that I feel comfortable with, and that's kind of they end up being on the top of my list. So I go ahead and make a purchase when I do that, and like I said, usually that's when there's a dip. Even if they are a growth stock, I feel like they've had a dip, which gives them substantial room for them to have a little bit of a rebound, so I can get a quick turnaround. Now, the reason I do dividend stocks, that's how I kind of reduce my risk, or that's my view on it. If they're dividend stocks, I feel like they're a good, solid company. They're going to keep producing. They're going to keep paying out dividends. Even if I hold that stock longer than I anticipated, I'm getting paid a dividend. Now, it's not the turnaround that I'd like to get, but that's fine. So I'm looking for intraday trading where I try and get 1 to 2% with a couple trades. So I buy small. Well, I started out with $50, so I'm obviously not buying a lot. So I'll buy up to 5 shares in a stock, and then the first share I'd sell for 1% increase, 2% for the second share, and all the way up to 5%. The reason I started doing that is because I felt like I still needed the turnover. So if I was doing the 1%, I was getting lots of turnover. I was getting a sale out of it, and fairly high success rate on that. So as far as like stocks that I didn't have to hold for an extended period of time, like anywhere past 2 weeks. So usually I was getting the trade done within 2 weeks. So I felt my accuracy on picking stocks was pretty good, but there was times when I didn't get the I guess the amount of turnaround that I wanted. So I felt like, if there was some stocks that didn't go above the 1%, I wouldn't do this, but I found that a lot of stocks did end up going higher over a certain period of time. So if I'm getting the extra 5% in 2 weeks, that's great. If I get it in a month, that's great. But sometimes I could get the turnaround in the same day, and I could have got like 3 or 4%. So I tend to be a little bit pickier than where I buy, because I do want to make sure that the stock's going to have at least a 5% gain. In my mind, right? Like, so I'm picking this ahead of time, so obviously I don't have a crystal ball, so I'm imagining that this stock has to have that rebound. Now, before, where I was only trying to get a 1% gain, it was sometimes maybe a little bit, I'd rush in because it'd go down. I'd feel like I want to get this stock, and then it would take a while for it to turn around. So with the tiering system for the selling, I'm trying to get a little bit more out of the sale, but I'm also a little bit more cautious not to jump in too soon. So it kind of helps a little bit with, that fear of missing out, but also that risk aversion that I have. And so, a combination of things that work out there. So I keep getting the turnaround at the 1 and 2% level fairly quickly, and 3, 4, and 5% not as good. So this account that I've started just for this channel, I've started at the beginning of the year. I did kind of start with more of a swing trading kind of idea to it, but I ended up having more time. So I went back to kind of my old strategy, and then I added in the tiering, which has proven to be successful. Just in the last couple of days, I've had several stocks that were that 4 and 5% come through, and I've only been holding some of them for even just a few days. So that is exactly why I kind of expanded on that strategy. And I figured it's a really good strategy for somebody new, because you're not really, expecting a huge gain. Like, you're not trying to get 20-30% like maybe a day trader would. But it also gives you a little bit of turnover, a little bit of vision. So you're kind of watching a certain stock and you're seeing how it's moving. So you actually learn quite a bit from watching how the stocks perform and how the stock market changes prices and goes up and down. In fact, one of the stocks, I'm waiting for it to sell its last piece. It went up to 1 cent below what I'd set the limit price for. And so when it hits that limit price, it sells, and I then get my profit. But the problem with that is, when you set a limit price and it goes up to 1 cent, and you're kind of letting the app do its job of selling at the price you want, I could have, if I was watching it 100% of the time, I could have sold it for that 1 cent less and still made that close to 5%, right? It could have been just shy of 5%. And so sometimes you miss out on those, and you'll see that happen if you're setting limit prices to buy and sell. The stock market will get close to where you want, and then it will go the other way. You're kind of stuck without getting that sale, right? So you might not get the profit. And I've had it happen where it's gone right up to the edge again, and it's dipped down and stayed down for several weeks, sometimes even months, and you're like, I could have sold that, and I didn't. But if you've got a busy schedule, setting a limit price is the best way to do it, because then you know you're going to get a specific gain. If you throw in a market sale and it dips right there in front of you before you click to go ahead with the sale, then of course you get the lower price. So it's kind of a mixed bag there. All right, so that's kind of a little bit of an insight on the strategy that I'm using. It's not anywhere near, I guess, what a professional would do, but seems to be working for me, and I'm happy with how it's working out right now with the tiering. And yeah, I hope you'll follow me for my next video. Click subscribe and like. We'll see you next time.